impact with the Florida Star, the largest, oldest, and most read African-American newspaper in Northeast Florida and South Georgia. And now, here's the host, the publisher of the award-winning Florida Star, Clara McLaughlin.
Well, thank you for tuning in. This is Opio. I am sitting in for Clara McLaughlin, and we have a wonderful show lined up for you today. We're going to talk about some of your favorites. Your favorite topic is business, and so we are going to do that today. But also, I wanted to make sure you understand the importance of the Florida Star newspaper. Been around since 1951, right after World War II. I can tell you, it's so many people come into the office and they have these incredible stories. This week, and I'll tell you that before we go into the topic, it was a guy that came in the office. His first name and his middle name was John Doe. He was actually found as a baby back in the 40s. He was found in I think this was the early 50s. He was found in the river. He said by the Main Street Bridge. He and another child. And I think they were brother and sister. And some white person picked them up out of the river, and from there gave the children to somebody in the black community. They split the children up, and John Doe said he did not know where the other child went, but he was given to a set of parents, a set of black people. And the interesting part of the story is that he came into the office because he wanted a Florida Star newspaper that mentioned his mother. Now, I found out some weeks ago, or maybe a month ago, that the Florida Star was a newspaper that had these incredibly interesting titles. Man buried alive, dog bites man, man bites dog, those type of headlines. I mean, and crazy headlines, right? And one of the headlines was, woman saws house in half. I kid you not. And this was this guy's mother, adopted mother, who sawed an entire house in half. She was divorcing her husband back in the 50s, and he said that his mom wrapped him up in a blanket. He said he was really young when this happened. He said he had to have been 4 or 5 years old. She took him over to, I guess, their sister's home, which was right across the street from the home. He said he was lying on a blanket looking out of a window at his mother saw a wooden home in half. He came into the office because he wanted to know if we had this issue from back in the 50s. And it was the story was so incredible. I mean, that's only a part of the story. It was so incredible that I say, man, I have to get you on film. So I took out my video camera, and you're going to be able to see and hear some more about this fascinating man named John Doe on 18.2 Star Media, our Star TV network that Clara McLaughlin owns at this point. So those of you who have a television, turn on to 18.2. You will see documentaries, you're going to see different local things, and of course you will see national programming. But we're going to put that and those type of stories on the air. We got to know who is in Jacksonville and some of these incredible stories. So we've gone from tens of thousands of readers per week to hundreds of thousands of viewers on the TV station. And in January, we will actually be on Uverse. Be one of the channel selections on Uverse. So you make sure you tune in and you stay tuned to what we're doing. Black media. you have to make sure that you support. And those of you out there in business, those of you out there have your events, those of you out there have your churches, please come to us with your dollars and your money in your hands so we can survive and so we can become rich. All right, nothing wrong with that, right? So we can make sure that the next generation and generation after this are able to get TV, able to get radio, and able to get newspaper. And for it to be black, and we understand that when it comes to black media, we are going to do it a different way. And we're going to do it in ways that you can see yourself. Do I have my guest on the line? Do I have my guest ain't calling right there? Okay, I have a guest that's going to be calling in real soon. And again, we want to talk about business. I don't know if you picked up the copy of the Florida Star from the December 19th to the 26th issue, the current issue, but the first black Florida Supreme Court Justice, Honorable Leander Shaw, he died at the age of 85, just died. I can remember being on the West Coast and hearing about this judge that's on the Supreme Court. And then there was another one. There was a female, a black judge that was on the Florida Supreme Court. And no matter where I was in the country or in the world, I always say, oh, that's my state. What are they doing? And come to find out, Judge Leander, he's a Bison. He went to Howard. And the female judge that's on the Supreme Court, she also was a Bison, went to Howard University as well. Black schools, black colleges doing phenomenal and fantastic things. And it's so wonderful for us to have had Honorable Leander Shaw to serve the state of Florida. And it is so great that we're able to have these justices that give of themselves. And I mean, the guy stayed on his post all the way up until death. I think he did retire. But what incredible minds that we have. And we put him above the fold, center of the paper, the Florida Star. But also, I wrote an article. Actually, this is the first article that I personally wrote, and it's about Star Media. And we have made sure that we're able to educate you on the television station that we have. So incredible. All right, I think our guest has called in. Hello, how are you doing?
Well, good evening. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas. Hopefully we will have a prosperous 2016.
Yes, sir. And for those of you who don't know, this is Dr. Danford. This is one of my favorite people in Jacksonville, Florida. Sir, give us the state of the Urban League. How's the Urban League doing? Tell us a little bit about what you guys got going on right now.
Well, you know, we're in our 6th and 9th year here in Jacksonville, and we are alive and well. We have a number of programmatic thrusts that we're involved in currently, and of course one of them I want to speak further about that later in the program. But yeah, the Urban League is doing well. We're always looking for contributors, members, young people in the community that want to join our young professional group. And so we're in the business of looking at ways to improve the quality of life for the citizens in Jacksonville.
Now, tell us a little bit about the Urban League. What is the Urban League, and why do they exist?
Well, the Urban League, let me say, is an affiliate of the National Urban League. There are a little over 95 urban leagues around the country. founded back in 1910 when black folk were migrating from the South, Florida, Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, going north, looking for opportunities as it relates to jobs, as it relates to decent housing, and just opportunities that were not available to them in the South. And that was one of the reasons for the founding and the establishment of the Urban League, is to assist African Americans and others economic and social development. So that's pretty much where we are and where we've been as it relates to the Urban League.
Now, you guys were around during the Civil Rights Movement as well, and a lot of people don't know that the March on Washington was titled the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom. A. Philip Randolph was heavy when it came to business, and so he was a part of making sure that we were talking about jobs in addition to freedom. What was the Urban League doing during the time of the Civil Rights Movement?
Well, if you're talking about the 50s and 60s, we had a very strong leader at the as we've had over the years, but this one in particular, Whitney M. Young,
yes,
who met his untimely demise swimming in Africa, was very, very involved, more behind the scenes, but certainly in terms of the organization, in terms of working with Martin Luther King and the other great individuals that surrounded Dr. King, and, you know, in dealing with the President, Lyndon Johnson, you know, and Kennedy at the time. So the Urban League, along with the NAACP, and certainly the SCLC, that Martin Luther King founded, all of the CORE, SNCC, all of these organizations were involved in the Civil Rights Movement, albeit different missions and strategies and goals. Our strategies were somewhat different from some of the other organizations.
Mm-hmm. And how did you come to the Urban League, and why?
As a matter of fact, on next month, January 2nd, will be my 24th year at the Jacksonville Urban League, and I left the city of Jacksonville, where I worked 3 years with Mayor Hazuri at the time, and of course, he lost the election, and I worked 6 months with Ed Austin, who followed Hazuri. And so I've been at the Urban League, you know, for a little over a couple of decades now, and I've seen a lot of things, not only nationally, but certainly in this community. So looking forward to 2016, I think we've got some exciting things that will happen, and we want to assure that some of the positiveness that we will experience as it relates to economic empowerment and economic development, that it happens also in our lower-income neighborhoods.
Right. Okay, so right now, we know in Jacksonville business is important, and we have a lot of minority businesses that want a slice of that pie. I heard one governor, actually a business, it was a grocery store when I was an undergrad. This guy said, I don't care nothing about affirmative action, but when it comes to my staff, I always ask them, but how many blacks are we hiring? Right? I thought that was interesting. And so when it comes to hiring, that's one thing, but we want black people to be the ones who are hiring, right? And so often there's always there's an issue where when it comes to black businesses, you have the city or the state or where the federal government, it seems sometimes they look at our business a little bit closer, and they begin to find things that we may not have. Sometimes other white businesses don't have, but they're able to get those contracts. So I think you guys are in the position to be able to make sure that we know all these pitfalls if we want to do business with government, right?
Oh, most definitely, and I think I think education all around is critical, and our small businesses need to educate themselves even more, because there's some assistance available for them, but they may not know exactly how to reach that assistance. So we want them to call the Urban League, because we have recently received some funding to allow us to work with small businesses, and we're going to concentrate many of our efforts in the urban core and inner cities, because we know that one of the major problems for the social ills that we have in our community is the lack of jobs, the lack of economic equity, the lack of economic empowerment. And I can go on and on. The lack of loans that our small businesses need in order to expand their businesses so they can hire people from our neighborhoods. Jacksonville is growing leaps and bounds, and unless we make some concerted efforts, then the community that we serve will continue to be left behind, because we keep doing the same things over and over and over, and we keep talking about the same things, but yet we're expecting something different.
Right.
We're not if nothing different will happen until we take some control over our lives and what is happening in our communities, and we just need to take ownership.
Oh, man. Okay, we're going to talk about contracts. We're going to talk about what you guys are doing, and really talk about getting black businesses ready, or finding those black businesses that are ready and making this happen. I tell you what, we're going to go to a break, and when we come back, we're going to continue to talk to the president of the Urban League, Dr. Danford. This is Opio, and you're listening to Impact.
Do you know what media received the first Eagle Award by the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office for being the most factual? The Florida Star. Do you know which media solely addresses issues of concern for African Americans? The Florida Star. Do you know which media carries local, state, national, and international news regarding African Americans? The Florida Star. Do you know the only media that carries a special section for our youth at home, and the schedule for 3 black television networks? Now you know the Florida Star. Northeast Florida's largest, oldest, and most read African American newspaper, serving since 1951 in more than 200 locations. The Florida Star. News you can use, news you can trust. The people's choice, striving to make a difference. Subscribe today. Call 766-8834. That's 766-8834. Pick up the Florida Star at over 200 locations, or to have it delivered, call 766-8834. The Florida Star, speaking truth to power.
You're listening to Impact with the Florida Star, with your host, Clara McLaughlin.
Hello, this is Opio, and you are tuned into Impact. This is the radio show that is owned and sponsored by the Florida Star newspaper, and we are talking about a favorite topic, business, and we have Dr. Danford on, the president of the Urban League. Hey, Doc, what's interesting is that a lot of times there are these multi-million-dollar projects that are going on, and there's supposed to be some type of set-aside where black businesses are able to get these contracts, and we find out when a lot of the big things are going on, the stadium, things are some of the bigger projects, they find a way to have these waivers and write black businesses or those set-asides out of these programs. And some of these things are federal dollars are given because they want to make sure that black businesses are getting money, whether it's the prime or the subprime contractors, the people who don't have the contractors, but are able to go under some of their big companies. And some of these big companies, what they might do is they pay off somebody in order to not give them the black people that contract. Or you got these white women that are apply, and really it's the white man that owns the contract, and they're still considered a minority. There's all these tricks. Now, how can we avoid or fight when these type of tricks are being played on black businesses?
Well, trickery has existed, for hundreds of years, but let us talk about now. We know from an empirical perspective, we have the data that reflect the fact that minority businesses, particularly black businesses, have not fared well in this community. And I tell you, we've had opportunities in the past. We had several years ago the Better Jacksonville plan. Before, we had the Renaissance plan. And with these plans, the citizens of Jacksonville passed bonded measures, so they were able to pool millions and millions of dollars to do some things that are very positive in the community around construction. The stadium, the arena, the Performing Arts Center, and supposedly, potholes in the roads, and et cetera, et cetera. Matter of fact, the Jacksonville Urban League benefited from the Better Jacksonville plan in terms of the construction of our building. But let me get back to some of the things that you were pointing out, Opio. Many of our small businesses have some serious issues. One, it's very, very difficult to get bonding.
Right.
However, through the education process, there are ways to take care of that, and we're going to be involved in helping with financing and bonding assistance. Also, there are a number of entities that provide technical assistance, to small entrepreneurs, and we've got to expand that, because we've got to continually improve ourselves and our skill sets such that we can compete. There is no set aside to be. Matter of fact, if you mention that name, people run to the hills.
Yeah.
So there are no set aside. So we're going to have to look at some creative opportunities, say with the city of Jacksonville, such that they can make the resources available in an equitable way to all of the all of the communities. We can't have one or two, we can't have just downtown. We've got to concentrate on downtown because we want a great downtown. We've got to find a way to bring some economic development or empowerment or whatever to those areas that are suffering. The lack of jobs, the lack of business expansion, others coming in the community, setting up shop, taking the money from our neighborhoods. And so we see it constantly over and over and over and over. And so what we want to do is we want to spend this next year really getting to the meat of it and providing opportunities so we can grow small business in this community.
So this is what you're saying. We've had these meetings 100 times before. We know about all the tricks. We know about the past. We know about all these things. There's no sense in having all these meetings again. We're actually going to make some things happen now. We know how to do it, and we've been given the task to make it happen.
Well, I think it's incumbent upon us and those in a position where you are supposed to work for the betterment of people in the community, and of course I include myself in that. Certainly for the time that I'm going to spend going forward, I really want to work extremely hard, not only to improve our communities, but also to look at partnerships. We've had some issues in our community where we have not talked enough.
Yeah.
And we need to man up and sit down and talk through some things so we can pool. We've got some heck of a talent in this community.
Right.
If you just think if we could pool all of this talent and direct it toward making the lives of our people better, then I think that's what it's about. It's not about me individually. It's not about you. It's not about, we need to step up, and I think our folk are smart enough to see what people do and why they do certain things. I want to be held accountable, certainly for doing the things that I need to be doing as president of Jacksonville Urban League.
Man, you done got me excited. Tell people how they can find out what you're doing, how they can get involved. They got these businesses that are rearing and ready to go. What they need to do?
Well, we've got about 6 or 7 coaches that are going to be available to provide free information to small businesses. Right now, we're gearing up, and I'm going to give you a telephone number for our Entrepreneur Center that is coming online. But in the meantime, if they would call 723-4009. Again, that number is 723-4009. Call the Jacksonville Urban League and let them know that they want some assistance, in terms of helping them with their business, and they will be able to refer that person to the appropriate individual. But we're available to help. We're going to help, and you're going to see quite a bit of activity going forward as we work extremely hard to support our neighborhoods, to support the businesses that exist there, and also the ones that want to move to our communities.
That's right. Well, Dr. Danford, let me tell you, we appreciate you and we love you, but we know what public service is. We know what it is, and you've been out there on that battlefield a long time, and this right here can be a big crown jewel to be able to get this all right. You're the perfect person to do it, and again, we just want to thank you for your leadership and your service.
Well, thank you very much for having me on. I wish everyone a Merry Christmas and a happy, safe New Year, and let's stop the violence, and let's take more responsibility for our own lives, okay?
All right, thank you, sir. All right, and you heard right there, Dr. Danford, they got a big mission, and they're going to be the centralized unit that's going to take care of the issue when it comes to pulling these businesses together and making sure we make some people rich. Black people need to be rich. Y'all not afraid of that, right? All right. All right, this is Opio. I got to get out of here. We will see you next time. Make sure you pick up a copy of the Florida Star and tune into 18.2 on your television dial. And I am out of here. Peace and love to you.